good evening, everyone. It is 5:30, and I'm going to call to order this February 1st meeting of the Career Technical Education Advisory and Technical Skills Committee. In lieu of an in-person meeting, we are meeting via Zoom, which is broadcast on YouTube. For anyone who is watching, I want to remind you that due to the current state of emergency declared by the governor because of the COVID-19 virus, and more specifically, Governor's Directive 021, the CTE Advisory Technical Skills Committee will receive any public comment via email only. Those wishing to make public comment should email their public comments to cteadvisorycommittee@washoschools.net. All public comments received before and during the meeting will be forwarded to the CTE Advisory Technical Skills Committee for their consideration. All public comments will be included in the public records as minutes of this meeting. With that, let's see, is there somebody that can do roll call? Last time I had Jeanette do that. Either Cindy or Kathy. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Jeanette is on here. Yeah, Jeanette, could you do roll call for us? Or Matt, do you have access to do that for us?
Yeah.
Jeanette, are you able to do that? Are you on?
Let me grab my sheet. Hang on one sec.
Sorry, I put Matt on the spot there. And Jeanette, will you be the one that has access to the email to let us know if we have any public comment this evening?
I'm guessing she probably doesn't know she's muted because she usually attendance as well.
Kathy, if I can't get a hold of her, can you check public comment for us? Perfect, thank you.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Sorry, I had to go grab headphones because the mic wasn't working directly off the laptop.
No problem. Do you have the ability to do roll call for us?
Yes, I can do roll call. Sorry, guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Jay Williams. Absent. Randy Canal.
That's Canali and present.
Canali.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
Emily Webb. Absent. Veronica Franklin.
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Brittany Brown. Absent. Jay Rathman.
Present.
Angie Hernandez.
Present.
Matt McKay.
Present.
Dave Chantani.
Present.
Denise Castle. Absent. Tiffany McMaster.
Present.
Tracy Monstrat.
Present.
Troy Parks. Absent. Brooke Barham.
No, Jeanette, Troy's here. I saw him.
Okay. Maybe he's having trouble with the speakers too.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much. Before we begin this evening, is there any public comment?
No public comment at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And just to verify, we do have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. All right, our first item on our agenda this evening, 1.04, is action to adopt the agenda. So is there any discussion on the adoption of the agenda or any public comment? Is there a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt.
Okay, Veronica Franklin made a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second
I-
to Jay Rathman, second.
Jay Rathman made a second. All those in favor, you're going to need to unmute yourselves and say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Moves forward, unanimous. All right, the next, excuse me, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our November 16th, 2020 Career and Technical Ed Advisory Technical Skills Committee meeting. Is there any discussion on those minutes or proposed changes to those minutes? How about any public comment on the minutes?
No public comment.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes. Matt McKay.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second Angie Hernandez.
Second, Angie Hernandez. And if you could unmute yourself and all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. That carries. We are now moving on to agenda item 2.02. Discussion and possible action to select a vice chair for the committee from among the following: Jay Williams, Randy, Emily, Veronica, Brittany, Jay, Angie, Matt, David, Denise, Tracy, Troy, and Brooke. I think that's the whole committee, right? All right, is there any discussion about nominating and possibly selecting a vice chair? If you remember, the vice chair is no longer on this committee because she's now serving as a board of trustees for the Washoe County School District. So we appreciate the service from Dr. Nicolette, but we need to nominate someone else. Is there anyone that would like to discuss this? Anybody that would like to volunteer to come forward, or anybody who wants to nominate someone? Well, I would like to nominate Matt McKay as a vice chair. I don't know if you're willing to serve in that capacity, but I'd be willing to put that forward for discussion.
I'll serve if no one else more qualified would like to do it.
Is there anyone else who would be willing to do it, or anybody ready to make any type of motion? Is there any public comment on that? Jeanette?
No public comment.
All right, well, if there is no public comment, I'll make a motion to nominate Matt McKay as vice chair for the Career and Technical Skills Committee. Is there anyone that would like to make a second or any discussion?
I'll second that motion. Veronica Franklin.
Second by Veronica Frankel. Okay, all of those in favor, I'll need you to unmute and say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Congratulations, Matt McKay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we are now moving on to agenda item 2.03. This is information and discussion on the career and technical education programming in the Washoe County School District for the 2021-2022 school year. And with that, I will pass it off to, I believe, is it Kathy and Josh?
It's just me.
Okay.
Can everybody see my screen? You should see a PowerPoint. Does everybody see a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time tonight. Me and Kathy have really tried to put in some work to make the content that we cover a little more interactive tonight. So it's definitely going to be streamlined and hopefully some opportunity for some good discussion tonight. So in terms of updates on programming for next year in CTE programs, we really only have a couple. First off, the state, and we'll continue to talk about this moving further, but the state is largely looking to compress the bulk of our programs down from 3-year programs to 2-year core programs with kind of more flexibility in terms of how students handle year 3 or year 4 if they decide to persist with their programs. And the first of that kind of wave of change is going to be with auto next year. So automotive technology is effective next year, being compressed from a 3-year required program down to a 2-year required program. Students will still have the opportunity to go on to a year 3. So there will still be a level 3 in auto. It'll just be what's called a complementary course or an optional course. And they could continue on into a potential year 4, which is advanced studies course. Automotive technology is, as you see here, here's a description of that program, pretty much covers all the basic fundamentals of how to engage in automotive repair and maintenance, all the various systems from HVAC to electrical to brakes to transmission. In terms of immediate impacts to our programs next year, as you can see here, these are the 4 schools at which we currently have auto programs. So students that we have in level 1, I would draw your attention to level 1. So at Incline, we have 15 kids in level 1. McQueen, we have 73 students in level 1. At Reed, we have 107, and at Spanish Springs. So this means that next year, any of those students in level 1, if they opted to roll up to level 2, they could potentially complete their respective programs. So the hope I can say for on the state's part is that this will provide more of an incentive for those students, because as you can see, when they go up to level 2, the persistence rates drop significantly between level 1 and level 2. So the state's prerogative is that hopefully this will entice more of those students to just stick with their respective programs and get that completion. In terms of what they'll actually receive at the end of completing their programs is still in development at the state level. In the past, they would have taken an end of program assessment and they would have gotten a certificate of skill attainment. We have every reason to believe they're still going to get some form of certification of skill attainment. But in terms of the actual test, that remains to be seen if our students in year 2 would take a test at the end of their program. But that's a big shift that's taking place as of next year. And again, schools, as you can see, schools like Spanish Springs and Reed especially, where they have students in level 3. Incline has a few, but because their overall population is so low. But at Reed and Spanish Springs, if you had any students in level 2 looking to roll up to level 3, they will have that option. It's just a question of our department reaching out to those schools and figuring out where they want to go from here. So with that, does anyone have any questions on this particular program change? Veronica,
Yeah,
I see your hand.
Yeah, just a quick question. Thanks, Josh.
Mhm.
Just wondering for the folks that are in level 2 now, they won't be able to complete at the end of this year. They'll still have to go on to a level 3 because they didn't have the same type of curriculum that the new level 1s are going to get. Could you just clarify if the level 2s this year can finish this year?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a really good question to bring up to the state. My impression is that they would have to go to level 3 next year, but I don't know if that's been ironed out. But that's a really great question.
Yeah.
Jeanette, you're taking notes, right?
Yes.
Can you capture that and we'll talk about that in our check-in this week? That's a really great question. That's something I hadn't considered. Any other questions? So moving on. So this was just kind of a discussion question. It doesn't really pertain to what we're talking about because students will still have the ability to go into a level 3 class. It just kind of remains to be seen what that's going to look like at each respective school. And like I said, our department needs to work with those schools to figure out where they want to go from here in terms of how they want their program structured. So I would just leave it to the group. If anyone has any ideas, if a student wanted to take a year 4 class, an advanced level studies course, I guess here I'm really fishing for if anyone has any ideas on internships. I know it's hard to get students opportunities to get into a commercial garage unless they're 18 years old. So that's just kind of us opening the door. If anyone has any ideas on what we could potentially do if students wanted to persist that far, reach out and let us know. And on that point, I would say we are always on the lookout for potential auto instructors. We may have a retirement this year, but moreover, just given your respective spheres of experience in the community, if any of you happen to know of anyone looking to change lanes or try a new career with any level of auto experience, that's definitely going to be something that we're perpetually on the lookout for, because auto teachers are really, really hard to come by. As we know, it's a very, very specific, special skill set that we're looking for. So just putting that out there to the group. And then humming right along. So here's our next, our second major program change for next year is the state is closing down effectively its support for photography as a CTE pathway. Photography is still going to be around, but it'll be around as a fine arts class or a fine arts program. In terms of the state supporting photography, it'll no longer be a CTE pathway. And that's based on a couple of different factors. Primarily, the state is citing labor market information moving forward. There's just not enough of a demand in the job market to sustain photography being its own specialized program. So the state is pivoting to what's called a multimedia communications program. And again, in keeping with where the state is looking to go, with core programs being 2 years, multimedia communications is going to be a 2-year program. And as you can see in the program description here, it's really intended to broaden the skill set of students from just having that focus only on photography to include social media, entrepreneurship, social media marketing, a variety of different media creation tools such as video production, graphic design elements, professional communications, etc. So in terms of this, we're fairly excited about the opportunities that will hopefully expand for many of our students in terms of broadening their skill sets and giving them more marketability across our district. I can tell you our new trustee, Kurt Thigpen, is very, very interested in this, given his background in media communications, in the media communications industry. So again, we're pretty hopeful that this will be a nice development. And then you can see the various potential career paths at the bottom. And in terms of schools that are looking to pilot this program, our early adopters are slated to be Spanish Springs High School and Worcester High School starting next year. We've had a couple of schools that have opted to stick with photography under the fine arts umbrella, but this is a change that we're looking to, that we're expecting to see over the next couple of years moving forward. Does anyone have any questions about this particular program? And then I have a couple of discussion questions on this as well. If you do, just chime in here. So I would put this to the group. This is something I'm kind of looking to encourage some discussion on. In terms of multimedia communications, does anybody have any ideas on how we can provide students in these programs with a broad range of work-based learning experiences in their schools and in their community? And then second to that, does anyone have any ideas as to with whom could we partner and what kinds of experiences could we provide? Again, specifically looking to multimedia communications. And I'll put that out there to the group.
Josh?
Yes.
I mean, we have a couple of, actually quite a few, including Trustee Thigpen's own company. I mean, there's a lot of businesses in our community between KPS3 and Abby Whitaker's shop and Noble Studios here in Reno. So I think we've got a really great range of opportunities if they can, if we can partner with any of those companies. I know they're all very, I know Abby particularly is very supportive of the school district. So those are just some of my initial thoughts.
That'd be great. Thank you. Anyone else?
Josh, I've got just a little bit of a question, maybe prompting some ideas.
Yeah.
I know that last I had heard, the state was still trying to determine exactly what type of licensure would be required for a teacher teaching in this multimedia field. And I'm just wondering if when they make that decision about the range of possible licensure areas, like anywhere from journalism to, you know, communications, like there's marketing, there's so many different facets. And once that's determined, that might help us find a niche for some of these work-based learning experiences once we kind of figure out where the licensure lies, because I know my mind just sort of spins with multimedia just because it could branch off into so many areas. And if I had more clarity in my mind, I think I would be able to provide some more ideas.
Good point. Anybody else?
Josh, this is Randy Canale. Sorry to interrupt.
No
I
worries.
put my hand up, and I don't know being new. I'm trying to work out the details of how to do this properly.
No, that's great. So just so you know, I can't see everybody here. So if anybody has anything to say, don't raise your hand and think I'm going to see you. Just kind of chime in on your mic. That works great.
Okay. Thank you. Being new, and maybe I just do not know yet where, I guess it's a two-part question, because part one would be transitioning into the new multimedia type schooling and classes that you have. Where is that curricula coming from? And part two of the question would be, if it's already an existing curriculum, what do they use wherever this curriculum's coming from for their methods of getting people into, like, say, different areas for to do the internships and such?
That's a great question. So I neglect that we could have welcomed Randy Canale, who's one of our new committee members here. Thank you, Randy, for being with us. Randy represents the building trades and the plumbers and pipe fitters union and HVAC as well. He's done a lot of wonderful work for our department in the past. So thanks for being here, Randy. That's a great question. So if you simply Google CTE Nevada, it's going to take you to the main website at Nevada Department of Education that will tell you, it'll bring you to the landing page where it'll tell you everything you ever wanted to know about our various programs, particularly our program standards. So when you ask where the curriculum for this new program is coming from, it's going to be based on primarily those program standards, which basically points our teachers in the direction of what are the topics that they should be covering throughout the course. And that's really kind of the blueprint, as those standards. In terms of how those are put together, NDE, I want to say over the course of the last couple of years has been working on putting those, well, not the last couple of years, I'd say more like the last year or so, has been working on putting together those particular standards. In the standards document, it gives you a list of who was on that standards writing team. I know for a fact that several teachers were on that team, and those teachers were drawn from media communications. So, for example, graphic design, video production teachers, I think those would probably be the two most represented teachers on that writing team. And then typically on a standards writing team, there's also representatives from industry as well. So beyond that, in terms of the actual ins and outs of the process that they went through in terms of putting that together, I couldn't get you that information, but I'd be happy to do some research and get you more info on the process for this particular program. But that's a rough outline of how the process works. I feel like I'm missing something else of your, does that about answer your question, or what did I leave out there?
No, thank you. And that did cover a lot of it. And again, Randy Canale for the record. The only other part I was wondering is when they put this program together, obviously there's a lot of experience in it. Do they already have ideas of who they're working with or things like that that can help us with this pilot program and possibly direct us to some of the people that have already helped them?
There's ideas in terms of industry as to who we could work with. I personally haven't heard of any recommendations from Nevada Department of Education as to actual firms that we could partner with. Anybody else on this committee, especially from my department, can correct me, Tiffany or Kathy or Cindy, if you've heard of anyone. I haven't heard any of that type of information from the Department of Education. And typically they don't release that kind of information. It's kind of on each district to leverage their knowledge and their working relationships with their local partners in education. Given that, I can tell you for this is kind of a loaded question because I wanted to make sure that we weren't missing anything from the group. And we've had some good suggestions here tonight. What we've done also is we've already done some kind of back planning with these particular schools. So with Spanish Springs and with Worcester High School, I've met with each one of these schools individually. And this is one of the things that we talked about. I could have walked you, in retrospect, I could have walked you through the process a little bit better, but basically we've already discussed what equipment these programs, these schools need. We've already had discussions as to which instructors and which instructors they're looking to lead these programs. What are the licenses that these instructors have in hand? And we've already confirmed with Department of Education that the licenses that their instructors at Spanish Springs and Worcester have are most likely going to work in terms of being able to teach this program. And then one of the other things that we've looked at is what are some community partners that these schools could work with. So we have some ideas, but again, we've been given some pretty good ideas tonight. Some of the partners that we're already looking at tying to these programs would be the Reynolds School of Journalism at UNR. I want to say, I won't name them by name, but I know at least one of our local news channels we're looking at as a partner as well. And then there's a couple of other local firms that our instructors already have pretty good relationships with that they're looking to partner. So all of that thinking is already in our mind. I just wanted to make sure that if there's any other ideas out there, we were covering it. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place foundationally to move these programs forward. But I also want to signal that the intent for these programs is really, they give us a cool opportunity in the sense that it really is, you can see how the kids are going to be really working and producing pieces of work that are readily applicable in terms of their school communities. The intent at these particular schools is not just that they're going to be learning the ins and outs of the industry, but really they're going to take on that piece of promoting their schools in general and the work that their schools are doing. So, from special events to athletic events, I can tell you, at least for Spanish Springs and Worcester, the intent is really that these particular programs are going to become, are going to have a central piece of the promotion and the marketing of these schools in general. So I know that was more words than was necessary, but does anyone have any other questions for these particular programs?
Jay Rathman, I think you're right, Josh, because when you look at the social media right now with 2020 and the way COVID is going, that's where the whole multimedia, everything has gone into social media. Mm-hmm. And it's probably a good thing. I mean, I'm not saying photography isn't a part of what they're going to do, but I think getting a hold of, like you said, some of the news stations in town, Channel 5, PBS always is looking for volunteers. There's probably a lot of independent people that are doing social media, a lot of other media outlets. And I think there's a fair amount around in town right now because that's what a lot of people are turning to right now to get their word out, to get their message out, talk about their businesses and everything else.
Definitely. Yeah, we're pretty excited about where this program could lead. I think it has a lot of exciting possibilities both for our staff and our kids. So with that, I don't know where we're at in the order. Are we on 204 at this point, Tiffany?
Yeah, so first off, Jeanette, I wanted to make sure we don't have any public comment before we move on.
None at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So yes, next up is agenda item 2.04. So Tammyzimmerman and Josh will be presenting and discussing the progress and status of the new W. Smith Career and Technical Education Academy. With that, I will pass it off to the two of you.
All right, Tiffany, I will hand it off to you if you're ready to, are you ready to share your screen? I'm sorry, Tammy, not Tiffany.
I knew who you were
Tammy.
talking about. I got it. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I'm Tammyzimmerman. I'm the Deputy Chief Facilities Management Officer, and I'm the point person in capital projects for the design of the Debbie Smith High School at the current HUD campus on Sutro. Let's see if I can get this to go. It was just working. There we go. So this is the existing campus, and it's got some red dots on it that I'll explain, but this is what the current HUD campus looks like. It has a cafeteria, admin, and some other classroom buildings that they use for standard classrooms. The red dots or splashes on there are what we intend to demo over there to start building the new campus. Building A will stay and remain, and that will be for Rise Academy. And keeping them on the campus and on the bus line. Our gymnasium building will stay up there, and we'll talk about floor plans as I get closer into these further in. And the IA building will stay up there, and we'll look at floor plans of that as well. But we did a lot of work early on from January of 2020 to October of 2020, working on ed specs, and those were approved by the board in October. And so from there on, we've been working on schematic design, which is the beginning of the design phase. So this is what we're kind of proposing for the new campus layout. I don't have a pretty picture yet because it's still kind of in flux with the schematic design. But with this, we'll start this construction in June of 2022, and we'll demolish those buildings that you saw, and we'll start doing abatement and cleanup in those buildings. So in September of 2022, we will start remodeling the IA building, the A building, and the gymnasium building. And then we'll start construction on the proposed building in the center of campus. That'll be the heart and kind of connect all of these together. Once we get closer to opening in August of 2023, we will have to put in here a temporary administrative suite and a cafeteria to get them through the first semester of their programs because that main building won't quite be complete. These are the programs that we will be able to offer, which is all of them. We intend to have space for all of the programs up there: hospitality, human services, ag, animal science, skilled trades, engineering, health science, business marketing. There's also teacher training and culinary that'll be in there as well. That's in the IA building. This is a cross section of the new build, and the new building that'll be the heart of the campus. And it's 3 levels. We intend to complete this in December of 2023 and move in, remove the temporary admin suite and the cafeteria and complete the site work. And then the Rise moves to the building A in December of 2023. So we'll be fully open December of 2023. But let's go to, I'm going to share the floor plans of the main level of the building of that new build. This building will house the administrative wings, which are right here in the center that you can see my cursor kind of going around. There'll be principal, assistant principal, bookkeeper, counselors, school police, and reception area. This is the reception area that we intend to have where you come in similar to AACT and you check in to get into the building. On the left-hand side is our boardroom, our new boardroom. That'll be beautiful that the Debbie Smith can use for presentations and community engagement and industry to come in and give presentations to, as well as have our regular board meetings and workshops. We intend to have the main entrance on the left-hand side. So it'll come in, and that foyer will be very similar to AACT, probably in its makeup, and be very visible because that'll be the front of the school. This section here that you see of stairway looking things is what we call the pitch pit. It has stairs on each side to get down through the 3 levels that are here, but also large enough stairs to sit on and have presentations, and for entrepreneurs and the students to pitch their ideas to industry and have everybody provide those feedback. So really looking forward to some of those exciting things that can happen with this pitch pit because we don't have one in any of our schools. And I think it'll be a great way for them to present items. It'll have a screen down at the bottom and audio and all of that. And it'll be very visible throughout the campus. So people walking by could listen and hear the students talking, or business and industry. So it could be something that the whole campus comes and sits and looks at. This is our mid-level building. Let me see if I can maybe make it a little bit larger and move it, just because we're working with PDFs and the floor plans and it's kind of tiny. Mid-level has on it marketing, which is back in the back here. We talked about having some printers and to have displays and that, so students could talk. The biggest thing that we'll see in this campus, and it'll be very similar to our Wild Creek campus, is that teachers have what they call think tanks, and those will be their offices, so they can have office hours and those kind of things, like a community college campus, and then not be in their classrooms all the time. There's a student store out front of the marketing, where students can sell and market their items for student consumption. Even within the main floors in the classrooms, you'll see mini labs, and those we think are where students would come in and work on projects together, maybe outside of class. There's also group rooms. So there's a lot of extra spaces that students can collaborate and work on outside of their normal classrooms. This floor also has the majority of our standard science classrooms. There's biology and chemistry classrooms in here. And they can be used as standard classrooms as well. Further down, we'll see the media center and the library. We intend this to kind of be open with a glass door, so that it's kind of open to all the students, so they can walk through and see people reading and using the resources that are in here. These big square areas are open, and we are envisioning those as kind of an atrium, so you can see all the way down to the bottom floor. So it'll feel very much like a TMCC college campus for them. The bottom portion are just some more breakout rooms and small group rooms. And this portion over here, if you'll look at those, we intend to connect all the existing buildings except for the A building, which will be RISE, together with an interior circulation. So it won't be like Hug High School, where you have to go outside in the weather to get to your other classrooms. It also helps with safety and security. Let's see if I can make that go back. The bottom level it'll have in it our cafeteria, which is back in the back here where my cursor is, with a line to procure your food. These spaces are out on a patio for outdoor dining for that. So, and then further to the right will be a courtyard. We're looking at putting items in there that maybe the ag class can grow. We talked today in our culinary meeting about herbs and those kind of things, but trying to make that space really usable, and that things that other students can see the work of other academies. We'll have our health and science classrooms will be back here in the top left corner. And then we'll have further down, this will be our manufacturing lab. And this bottom one would be our robotics lab. And these kind of look out to the south. So there'll be beautiful views to the south from these, as well as access to the courtyards and those amenities down there for the students to use with all of their learning. The gym building is going to stay. We have to have PE, so we're going to have a PE facility as well as an athletic facility. These are the locker rooms that'll remain, but we're going to do some heavy remodels, so you won't even know. I mean, they'll all have new lockers and all that in there, so it'll be just like new. On the left-hand side, we have a welding booth that I think we have planned for 24 or 25 welding stations, so all those can be used. We also have access to the outside with a work yard that's out here, so we can store materials, very similar to what we saw at TMCC High School, to do all of that. This side is our construction trades classroom, and they have classrooms in between and doors to share tool space and a mini lab. We're working on kind of some of the layouts, locker spaces for them. And then as we move further south, we have our digital media room. We'll have sound booths, places for them to create their digital media. And then these will be standard classrooms with group rooms in them. But mostly we've got an intermixed kind of standard classrooms within the rest of the academies. And then the bottom of it will be solely for custodial space. We'll park our truck, the plow, and even a forklift so that construction materials and the welding can actually get their items off of their truck. So that was kind of a big discussion in our meetings with all of the teachers and district employees. This is the IA building that we spent a considerable amount of money to create CTE Academy in, and we're going to upgrade it. On the north side, which is the top here, we'll have teacher training, which is, it's currently being used for a pre-K or a facility now. And so we'll just turn that into a teacher training area with group rooms and classrooms for students. We've got restrooms interior to them in the middle there. And then we'll have like a breakout room, almost like a large group room, so that we can share those informal learning spaces in the center here where my cursor is. And then if we go further down to the right, that's our kitchen. We're going to do a little bit of remodel in there to spruce that up and make it usable for standard culinary, because right now it's being used just for baking. In the middle here, we'll have some standard classrooms. This will be a science room. We've got some conference rooms that students can use, as well as down here on the bottom, this will be the ag space, this is vet science classroom with all of their amenities, small group rooms, kind of conference tables to meet with and do their projects. And then moving further to the right, this will be our ag classroom. And then we're exploring right now with Sun Studies where to put a greenhouse, because we will be putting a production greenhouse so that they can sell their items and help with the, and be partnered with the culinary department to provide herbs and those kind of things to them. So we're working on that, hoping to find a good spot for that we get a lot of sun. They will have general use restrooms, just like we have at the Wild Creek or New Proctor Hug High School. But a lot of cool spaces that most of our schools don't have to actually collaborate and create those projects together. And that concludes my portion. Did you guys have any questions on the floor plans and what we're intending to do with that space as of now? I'm excited. It'll be really cool when we get it all done and we can go in and see all the new spaces that they have to create and work on their construction projects and their culinary, as well as their agriculture and the greenhouse.
You know, Tammy, I just wanted to say that I don't know that everyone has been on the HUD campus and realized what an incredibly beautiful view it has out of that south end of the property. But currently the HUD High School campus doesn't really capitalize that view an awful lot, just because there aren't windows that face in that general direction that get that big panoramic view. And I think that this design not only highlights that beautiful view, but takes the challenge of that sloping property, and instead of making it an issue that you have to design around, you incorporated it in the design and did things like the pitch pit and the multi-layers, and it'll make the building really unique, and took a really colossal problem and made it into something that is going to be almost a work of art. So I think it just looks absolutely beautiful.
I know I want my office like right here. I don't know that I'd get much work done, but those views will be spectacular. And that pitch pit with the atrium feel is going to feel so open and just a showpiece.
Yeah.
I'll share my screen here. Thanks, Tammy, for being here tonight. We may still have some questions for you, but thank you for that presentation. That is way more level of detail than I ever could have provided. Thank you. And with regards to the pitch pit, you're going to keep hearing about that because that's really going to be kind of the heart of the school. It's hard to visualize from the schematics, but basically it's going to just be a place for the kids to be able to showcase all the work that they're doing in view of the public. I think the seating, how many people are going to be able to sit in that pitch pit once it's complete is like 400?
I want to say it was about 400 when we talked about it. Yeah.
So again, the idea is that that's really going to be the heart of the school where whether it be students or staff or community members can present the work of the school to large numbers of people. And it's supposed to be really, really cool. So with that.
I have a quick question. Sorry, this is Dave Chantani for the record. Is there gonna, so this is gonna be a, are you gonna move one of the ag programs here, or is this gonna be a third ag program that's gonna be in the district now? The North Valleys and the AATC programs will still be in existence? Do you know how?
No, so the plan is for AACT's program to move over to here. So it wouldn't be an addition of, it would be a simple, I mean, not a simple, it'll be a complex transfer of that program.
Yeah, but that makes sense. There's more room to expand here. It sounds like this is great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I will go ahead and share my screen. And then Dave, also just having it in proximity to you and the College of Ag and UNR, we're really looking to be able to leverage that proximity and just have that kind of tighter connection with higher education as well.
No, that's great. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah. So in terms of just some more input on where this process has been taking us. So me and Tiffany and Tammy on the design team, we meet frequently, and we've been bringing in all the various teachers who are kind of experts in this field of educational spaces. And we're at the point where we're meeting just about every day, or at least every other day, putting together impromptu meetings, looking over schematics, what makes the most sense for the space and where the kids are going to sit and where the equipment's going to be. So at this point, we've reviewed spaces for CTE, particular for ag, business and marketing, construction, culinary arts, engineering and robotics, teaching and training, and then welding. And we've also reviewed spaces for the boardroom area and just the flow of traffic and how we can keep those spaces kind of distinct for when the board needs to meet there during the school day. How can we create, a sense of compartmentalization? There's also been, I haven't been in any of those meetings, but there's also been review, obviously, of the core classroom areas, the library / career and knowledge center. And then we've also been working with school police, especially to figure out some general security measures and kind of the flow of traffic. And again, how traffic can flow between members of the general public and students just coming to school every day. And then we still have a few spaces yet to go over, in particular on the CTE side, primarily the medical space, the biomedical and nursing labs. We're setting up meetings with teachers here in the next few weeks. And then also want to drill into the media center / maker space. So we have kind of the rough outlines for that media center in particular, but we still have a little bit of work to be done in terms of going through the space in particular. So with that, any other questions on Debbie Smith? I know that's a ton of information. If there are no questions, then I will put some, go ahead.
This is Veronica. You didn't see me, Josh. Veronica Franklin for the record. Just a quick question. I know when Tammy was going through the rooms, she mentioned there was a room that was the early childhood education room. Just wondering if there was going to be one that remains on the campus or that's going to be completely removed.
Tammy, do you want to field that?
So it will be completely removed. It will move to another campus. We're working with Tina Springmeyer to move that. It may move up to the HUD campus where they actually serve the students up there, because the students' babies and children go to that early childhood center down there. So we're talking about moving it more up to that campus to serve those students still.
Okay, great. I was just curious because I know the teaching and training program, I was wondering if there was going to be any work, any thoughts about doing any work between this, the students learning from those who are in the early childhood education program, but I was just curious. So thanks for that answer.
And with that, so I will put some questions to the group just while we have us all together. We'll utilize this time to get some feedback. For the Knowledge Center in particular, the library, when this team thinks of a library or a Knowledge Center at a CTE school, what are some key concepts that come to mind for that space in terms of, obviously it's not a typical library / career center. Does anyone have any thoughts on how that space can be used, what it'll look like for the kids? Just any kind of general concepts that come to mind when we think about a library or a career center in a CTE school.
This is Dave Chantani for the record. I think these kind of modern knowledge centers, this approaches of having collaborative space for students to work in groups, I think is really useful. But when you have a big open space, it's difficult to do that. So maybe if you had some kind of small group rooms, that would be really useful.
Definitely. Anyone else?
This is Tiffany McMaster for the record. Just, when you think about a maker space and a lot of libraries that have transformed into a maker space concept, it's really so in line with CTE. However, a lot of the things you would find in a, say, maybe an elementary or middle school maker space really are what a CTE school is all about. For example, 3D printers. Well, we're going to have 3D printers in this building as part of some of the academies. Students will be creating and making things, as part of welding and construction. And so it's kind of, just how can we take what a maker space is and make it more of a mature career focused version of that. And maybe not all of that falls within that knowledge center. It's just, something to really think about. But I do think that technology and access to technology is key. And having the ability, we have this great pitch pit, but it takes students a lot of work to prepare for that pitch pit. And they do have, access to, rooms to build media broadcasts, but they're going to want to show it in smaller groups and utilize technology and leverage it and share it on social media. And so just really a technology rich environment that can give them that flexibility to share in smaller groups before they get in bigger groups like the pitch pit, to share with, members of their class before they share with the community.
That's a really good point. And so I'm going to go back to Dave's question that he had about the various the places for kids to be able to meet, for students to be able to meet of various sizes, and especially in kind of more smaller group sizes. That's going to be a fundamental design concept that you see throughout the school, is just having these various spaces, whether it be a regular sized conference room or a smaller sized conference room. That's one of the kind of primary design elements, is the idea that when we have students engaging in project-based learning and in small groups, you have to be able to provide them a space apart from the general classroom environment where they can work on projects, again, in groups of various sizes. So that's a really good point to be made there. And then going to what Tiffany said, there is going to be two, that's kind of something that we as a design team, this is for the benefit of the group, this is something that we as a design team are continually refining, is we are going to have a media center, which is not in this area, which is, elsewhere on the grounds, where students can be able to check out equipment such as video production equipment, or more importantly, or as important, they can engage in like post editing with like a Mac desktop. So they'll have that space, and then they will also have this other space for maybe doing research or hearing presentations from our local workforce representatives, or meeting with recruiters on one-to-one. So we have these spaces. We're just kind of trying to refine continuously what these spaces will look like. So I thank you there. Brooke, if you're on, I want to come to you for this question, but I want to open this question up to the rest of the group. But this is a question especially for our student representative. Does anybody have, and this is not to say we are not working on things, but again, want to utilize this time to collect feedback. Does anybody have any ideas for marketing and promotion of this school? Primarily, what questions does this group think that the community is going to have as we get deeper into development? You just heard a pretty detailed presentation from Tammy about what these spaces are going to look like. I gave a little bit more information on kind of the philosophies of how students are going to work together. Does anyone have any kind of general ideas or questions that we should be asking ourselves when we think about presenting this to the community.
Josh, when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking when you're talking about the students and what they're going to be doing in a library, like a knowledge center, you're looking at a think tank, you're looking at areas where almost you have to set a new innovation for a lot of what they're looking at. I mean, even just like think outside the box, like Star Trek. I mean, I'm just saying Star Trek, when you look at the advancement and what they're able to do with media options, obviously trying to bring a new level of advancement in basically technology and how they're able to access it. I think that's going to catch a lot of people's eyes when it's just not, okay, here's information, but more ways to access that information that looks a lot more advanced. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And not just, processing information, but creating new knowledge, creating new concepts and new products and new ideas, definitely.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Dave.
Dave Chantani for the record. When I didn't know much about CTE until I started working with the FFA groups and those folks like that. And I was just really blown away at how mature these kids are and how they're really, they're not like your typical high school students. At least that's, just in general with the CTE programs, they come out with more than just this high school education. They're ready to hit the real world. And I think that's what people don't really understand about CTE that don't know about CTE is the product you're turning out. The technology is great. That they use the technology, but they come out as mature people. That's what really impresses me more than anything, why I see the value of CTE.
Definitely. Anyone else? I'm starting to zero in on Brooke. Brooke, do you have any, or anyone else? Does anyone else have any ideas for how we could be marketing this school and the school community to our broader community, and what questions they might want to have answered?
Hi, Josh. Randy Canale again for the record. And as far as for marketing and promotion, hey, like any shiny new toy, open house after open house after open house, start getting people inside and actually seeing this thing. And when they start looking at it and seeing what you're offering, I think the word may spread quite a bit faster than you may believe.
That's a great point. And also, potentially leveraging some of our multimedia communications programs elsewhere in the district and, hiring that work out to them and having students doing the work of promoting other programs. Definitely.
Josh, this is Veronica Franklin for the record. I was actually, I was about to say something similar, both about the Knowledge Center as well as the marketing approach. Young people love to talk to each other. So if there's ways in the Knowledge Center, we talk about think tanks, how they can use the technology to support each other's projects. I know they're going to be assigned and working on projects together, but I can imagine one student is working on a project and some other student has an idea about it. And how can they communicate about, hey, I've got this idea. Anybody want to ideate online or in some sort of a knowledge exchange? Because knowledge management is really about knowledge creation, is really about drawing not just from the experts, but making them the experts, as well as for the marketing. I know one of the things that was most powerful for me when I was on the board, hearing the students from the CTE programs talking about what they were going to do and their ideas for the future. And I think that's going to be the students that are thinking about it are going to want to hear from students. And I think I always want to go back to hear from the students and let them talk to each other, because I think that's going to be the biggest draw.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jay, I think Jay, you were going to say something?
Is there a way to partner with somebody like a Tesla and use some of their cutting edge materials or thought processes to add, I don't know, an outside view again of what a knowledge center would and should have in it?
That's a great question. Short answer is yes. Yes, there's I'd have to think about it. But yeah, I definitely think that there's an opportunity here to reach out to the business and industry community and think about, you know, those firms that are operating in this space and what do they think would be some important concepts to keep in mind when we're looking at designing these spaces and thinking just, you know, more generally of innovation. Definitely. Anyone else?
This is Matt Kay for the record. I had a couple comments. One about the Knowledge Center. I always thought that it'd be great if there'd be a section. I love the multimedia checkout portion, especially for CTSOs. I know I had to learn the hard way as an advisor that a lot of kids, what I thought was simple, hooking up an LCD projector, became a very complicated thing for them to do when they're nervous and everything. So I love the checking out and getting to set it up and that portion. But the other thing, I think it'd be cool if they had like a print area where they could make their own posters and put them on the foam board, and kind of going with what Tiffany was saying, the maker space. There's so much stuff that we do electronically, which is fantastic. But I also think that kind of going the old school route as well, that we tend to get away from paper and regular print, and what an impact that can be when they actually give something to someone, when they, you know, when they've designed something and they can actually hand it to the person, or in the maker space type thing where somebody can physically hold it. As far as the marketing and promotion, has there been any talk of trying to do flyers in these different industries? So like the culinary area, or I don't know, like medical, let's say it was dental or something. You go into the, you go to your dentist and you're sitting there. Well, okay, not nowadays, you sit in your car, but in traditional, you go and you sit in the waiting room. If there are things that we could reach out to build not only partnerships with people as far as medical and agriculture, but also a way for them to market for us. Because a lot of the times I think in like a unique one like agriculture, the people that usually go to a place for agriculture most likely have children or nephews or nieces or somebody who might be interested in it as well, where the word would spread. I wouldn't know what the heck to do in a feed store myself, but somebody else who is in that area might go and realize, oh, this is what you need. And I know some kids that would be interested in signing up for your program. Can I take this flyer or this information and get it to them?
Those are great ideas. Thank you. And I think, thanks, Matt. I think someone else was going to speak as well. If I cut you off, just butt in here. I would just say thank you, everybody. I don't even have any more responses for everybody because I'm busy kind of processing different avenues of thinking. I can tell you this is a ton of feedback that we're going to have to spend a lot of time in our department to process through, which is a good thing just because there's such great ideas tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. Does anyone else have anything else before we move on? I think this was great. We covered a ton of territory. All right. I will leave it at that. And then I think it's Kathy. Are we now at your piece now? I think I'm the last one.
Jeanette, do we have any public comment before moving on?
No public comment.
Thank you. And then we've got agenda item 2.04, presentation and discussion on the update on the progress and status of, oh no, I'm sorry, 2.05. I apologize, I'm one off. Information and discussion on marketing and recruitment efforts for CTE internship opportunities from the current CTE students.
Perfect. Thank you. And Tiffany, let me know if just give me a signal if my internet cuts out. Okay. All right. So really our goal for this agenda item is to gather new ideas and strategies for internship recruitment. As I go through the information, I want you to think about, what are we missing and what else can be done to help us recruit more students into our internships. Last time we had a lot of kind of sit and get in our November ATSC committee meeting. We had Elizabeth Beck Kornick. She is our internship facilitator. She did a work-based learning presentation, but I know that not everybody was present during that. So I just wanted to do just a quick review of internship information that's relevant to this agenda item. So for you guys who were here last time, you know that there's a PowerPoint that's uploaded that you can also refer to. And so thank you for letting me go over this again. You know that there's a Nevada plan for strengthening CTE for the 21st Century Act. So AK, that's Perkins 5, that outlines that we need to increase in work-based learning opportunities as one of our 7 strategic goals for career and technical education. Internships is what we're going to focus on right now because that is falls under the work-based learning umbrella. As we think about internships and anything work-based learning, we really need to think about, there's 4 critical components when we process really the implementation stages of internships. We look at academic alignment, definitely employer engagement, really the preparation and pursuit of industry recognized credentials, which I've had the conversation with several of you on this committee about, and then that connection from school to workforce or employment. So I'm just going to do so all years except for the 2021 school year due to COVID-19. Thank you, COVID. We had 2 types of internships that we offered each semester to our students. We have a group internship and we have an individual internship. Just a reminder that individual internships are tailored to really meet those specific student interests after they've engaged, hopefully in a group internship or connected with some type of exploration in a career field. And then we try to narrow down their focus, and then they would, example, go out and work with Jay in an individual internship in his business. Usually students spend about 40 hours on site with one business. They don't really bounce around. It's one business or agency where they're placed. And the employer helps them build those employability skills and, of course, the technical skills, the knowledge needed that they truly understand and delve deep into that career field. So that's the individual internships. We did not offer individual internships this semester due to, well, COVID-19 and kids not being able to access those businesses. So what we did, and this is really where I want to gather information and ideas from you guys, is within our group internships. So our group internships, if you remember, they're organized by a career field. And it's facilitated by one of our teachers or our instructors that have knowledge in this area. The groups usually range from, 18 to 20 students, and they meet 1 day per week from 3:30 to 5:30. So think of that. They're after, a lot of times if you think of the businesses, and they explore different occupations within that industry. What I like about this and what I think is that I've heard from kids that's really engaging is they don't just go to one area. These are kids that aren't really sure what maybe they want to do in the medical field, for example. And so they'll go to Renown where medical is currently placed. And they get to go to different departments or areas. And then they can decide, you know what, I really liked radiology. So now I'm going to maybe focus on my senior year and look at an individual internship. Just a reminder, these are for 11th and 12th graders. Those are the only ones that can engage in internships. So this spring, because I know last time people asked about numbers. So this spring, our group internships, we have them in STEM. We have 6 kids in STEM. And the cap for STEM is really 20. So we could have 20 kids in there, and we currently have 6. The numbers are a little bit higher on non-COVID years. KUNR is another group internship that we have right now. And currently we have 6 kids in there, and the cap is 10. The reason for that is that's set by the business because they're really learning a skill. For example, like podcasts, how equipment works and editing. So they ask that we not go above, 10. And then we have our medical. Our medical is done at Renown. Currently, we've had it at St. Mary's before, but this semester it's at Renown, and we have 14 kids, and that cap is 15. And they've asked to not go above that cap, especially when they're doing tours. So remember, they meet once a week from 3:30 to 5:30, and they see different areas or departments in that field. So what I'm really looking for is, what are we currently doing to engage students and recruiting them? And, Randy, I heard you talk about, marketing and promotion, and that's what you guys do. A lot of you guys, you engage in marketing, promotion, recruiting, retainment, retaining those kids from a group internship and getting them into an individual internship. So before I open it up to you guys, so get your brains going, because I really need some feedback. We are currently doing to engage students is, I'm looking at my list. We create career specific flyers. So for like each area, we create a specific flyer, and that's something we've just started. Example, medical. And we also have a general flyer that is created as well. We started meeting with high school counselors, specifically CTE counselors. We meet with our career center facilitators. Some schools have chosen, I just found out today, one of them asked, hey, can we please have your general flyer again, because we want to post it on our school website. So that's something I put on the list. Counselors go into the classroom. In some schools, this is all site-based decisions. They go into classrooms to recruit students and provide information to them. We also have done Connect Ed phone calls out to just juniors and seniors that also connects with their families. So those are some of the things that we've done. And so I would just say to you guys is I would love to get your feedback on any ideas that you have on strategies for like recruiting our students. And also, you heard me talk about STEM, KUNR, and medical. Are there other group internships that we should be engaging in? I know we engaged in culinary a while back. So just kind of, some ideas, and I don't want it to be a sit and get. I really need this committee to give me some ideas and help us to increase in this area for students, because getting them that experience out with you guys, well, there's nothing like it. I mean, that's really what feeds into that workforce pipeline. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to anybody just on thoughts of what we're doing or what we could be doing differently and how we should engage maybe with parents, students, schools, business, and industry.
This is Tiffany McMaster for the record. I think that, you guys are doing a lot of great things. This is a particularly challenging time to try to recruit, because I think the best recruiting happens when you get somebody in front of, a child, and their passion and enthusiasm comes out, and you get them excited, and then they go home and want to share more. And so then if you can have those recruitment materials, the flyers, videos, what have you, that's great. But unless you get the student excited about it and give them the power of the information, it's really hard to promote that. So I think you've got a lot of great tools. I think you've got some pretty substantial barriers right now, but that would be my only suggestion moving forward, is thinking about once, we can start leveraging that in-person, face-to-face exposure, really capitalize on that, because it's going to be a time when I think that students are going to be very hungry to get out in the community again, and we can really leverage that enthusiasm once we do get to that point. So this is a really good time to plan and prepare and be very strategic about how we do that.
Perfect. Thank you, Tiffany. Well, and I would say even without COVID-19, we're not really seeing the numbers. I'm really thinking of, right now they're applying for next semester. And so what other group internships should we be offering in these areas that would really benefit kids? Randy Canali?
Sure, call me out on my first meeting. And actually for internships, it's very difficult. But one of the things that we, with our building and construction trades have been talking about, no, we cannot bring people out into the field, OSHA regulations, unless they are in a registered apprenticeship program, they're not allowed to come out into the construction trades. But our schools are not the job sites. And one of the things that we have discussed as far as, again, would be more towards the construction education students, is bringing them to our training centers, our apprenticeship training centers, and letting them see 1 or 2 nights in each of the different trades and kind of seeing what the students are go through, because a lot of times what we're doing is replicating in the classroom at our training centers what is being done out in the field, and sometimes bringing them in, whether it be into our CAD classes or CAD and BIM classes, our weld shops, our HVAC controls labs or backflow prevention labs or things like that. And then some of the other trades going out and sitting on with the operating engineers and watching the equipment. They can maybe run the simulator, and then also step out into the field and actually see some of the apprentices training on some of that equipment and some of the other trades as well. But again, unfortunately, that's kind of just towards the construction industry.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And remember, this is for credit. And so these are for credit. And so kids, in addition to going out into the field and seeing things, they also, they have assignments that they're doing that are related to employability skills. They also update a resume. They do like a capstone project at the end and a presentation. That's pretty phenomenal. So if you guys ever want to come see one of their presentations at the end, it reminds me why we do what we do. And the kids are just, it's inspiring how much they get out of even participating in their group internships.
Sorry, I was just going to say, this is Dave Chantani for the record. One of the issues, we'd like to bring them to campus if we could, but one of the issues we're having is bringing minors to campus and having them work in laboratory experiences or even, different areas. The campus has such strict rules. I mean, if we have graduate students or even undergraduate students working with your students, if they're minors, they have to get background checks. I mean, it's really limits what we could do. And I'm going to try to see if we could figure a way to kind of ease that up. I know we had a bunch of high school students that wanted to work with some faculty in our College of Engineering, but we just couldn't do it. It just got to be too difficult to make, logistically difficult to make it happen. Do you guys have any solutions to those types of situations when you place minors in workplaces? Do you have the same issue other places?
I let mine play with knives.
And fire.
I'm the worst one of them all, probably. And I think it's a problem that we're all having right now, is because just like I can't go to the school and help work with the kids like I'm so used to doing. And when we finally get to break loose, I think from the culinary side, at least we could have chefs go into the schools and work with the students. Most of the schools that are already there, it doesn't matter if it's McQueen, Reed, ACT, they all have kitchens. So the chefs can actually go, you can find an independent chef to actually go in and work a couple hours with the students. And that cuts a lot of the red tape. They just have to go through and, acknowledge what school they're going to. So it's not a problem. But it is difficult. And I can see both where the union halls, because I remember being a Teamster, that, you just can't walk onto a job site. And a lot of places, there is a lot of red tape. So it's unfortunate that there's a lot of things or businesses or schools that the students can't get into just due to their age. But that's just the kind of like the society we live in. I hate to say it.
Well, and I would say with individual internships, we've had a lot of success in this community. If we have a kid who says, I am interested in this, and Dave, you're right, it has been kind of difficult. There's been some difficulty trying to get kids in, but we've got a couple in, but really where higher education helps us out is they open their doors to group internships. So at least we can do it as it's really a formalized industry tour, right? And have everyone talk. So that's how we've accessed some areas that it's just not available really for them to do an individual internship. And we vet all of the businesses that the kids are going into. And so there's a process in place for this. But I like the ideas of getting the chefs out there, to really engage the kids. I know that we have that in some of our classrooms, but that's a good idea, Jay. And we want these to be really strong because, we're going to be moving on we have discussions around, apprenticeship ready, pre-apprenticeship programs. And so, this is all layered. And so if we can get our internships really strong, then we can move into, that apprenticeship world that we so much need in Nevada. And so does anyone else have any ideas or any areas, maybe Matt or Tracy who are in schools, anybody, and what areas you think we can expand group internships that you've heard that kids are interested in?
This is Tracy Monserrati for the record. I haven't heard of any new areas that kids are interested in. I can speak from experience of bringing my kids to a facility for a couple of years, and then and I had great success. It was awesome, but then with COVID, it just kind of all went by the wayside. And my concern personally is I'm not going to be able to get that relationship back with the VA, and so that's kind of it really is difficult. But I think one thing that we have to remember too is kids learn and pursue things from word of mouth more than anything. And so if kids that are currently in the programs really need to be excited and tell future students about the possibilities. And nothing is better than a kid being able to say they went into a professional environment and came out with new skills. They are really proud of that. It's a resume builder. I mean, there's so many good things about it. It's just, it's hard, especially now. I just really feel like there's so many barriers that we don't know how to get through at this point.
Thank you, Tracy.
Sorry, it's not very helpful. It's
just great. And by the way, Tracy runs an amazing internship with her students, and so that's why I'm kind of in her.
It was great. It was great. But we are on hold. So, and that's been hard to switch gears and go from something that was so great for the students to, oh no, now what am I going to do with those advanced studies students that expect to get this phenomenal experience and they have to sit in a class with me. I don't know.
Kathy, this is Dave Chantani. I was thinking on the ag side, I think there's a lot of opportunities because we have that Nevada Teach Ag Science program. And Christy Carey, she used to be a CTE teacher in Churchill County, I think, Churchill County. Anyway, she used to master teacher there, and they have probably 6 or so ag ed teachers or apprentice teachers. So maybe you can talk to her and she could run those students can run some programs for the ag students anyway. And I know there's we have a lot of facilities, including the greenhouses and the meat packing plant, which I think is kind of interesting, but maybe we won't let them play. Maybe we won't let them play. Maybe we will let them play with knives. I don't know. We'll see. but I think Christy Carey she's a master teacher for the ag science. She'd be a good person to talk to and see if her students can help you out with making those internships happen.
I love that idea. Thank you. Is there anybody else? I don't want to take up too much time, but I want to hear all your voices.
Hi, Brooke Barham for the record. To build off of what he said in the ag department, I think it'd be really cool to maybe partner with local companies like maybe Sparks Florists or other things like that that are a lot more local, small, probably more willing to, I guess, organize something with students. I know it's a little different this year, but something like that would be really cool. I know also personally, like I visited Microsoft last year for AP Computer Science, and I had an amazing time. And they had like really cool facilities and workshops. It'd be so cool to do like some sort of maybe a business technology internship, if that would be even possible, sometime in the near future. Or even like Tesla was mentioned earlier. I think that's something that a lot of people kind of just think is really cool and would like to see the inner workings of. But I definitely think like technology specifically is a lot of things that kind of all students would like to get involved in a little bit more. So I think that could draw in students from all different fields. Also on the note of technology, I think the biggest way you could reach out to students more than you already are would be through social media, especially this year where half of the students aren't even at school seeing their friends anymore. We all are relying on social media to even just stay connected with the world. So I think if you could start social media pages or possibly send out videos, I think the biggest thing is just showing what the internships actually entail, because speaking from personal experience, I don't really know too much about the internships and like what you get to do, what has been done previously. So like a social media page that could show pictures of students doing their thing at different places, and also just kind of explaining what the actual opportunities are in a kind of technological, easy to read way would be really cool and hopefully effective.
Brooke, which platform, which social media platform?
I would say probably Instagram, just because it's probably the most general and it's already used for a good amount of school-related things, like especially at AACT. I'm not completely sure about like completely public high schools, but I would definitely say Instagram for the most part. And I think it's just important to have like kind of catchy things that grab your attention so that people actually kind of look away from other things for a second to realize that there's internships out there. Because I think the biggest issue is just students don't even know this exists. And I also agree with the word of mouth. Like once people know it exists and become involved in it, then other people will want to join in too. And I think it'll just like kind of spread like wildfire.
Brooke, those are great ideas. You're exactly right. Word of mouth. That's how we've got to at least the place that we're at right now, is because for kids in the medical internship, when they hear that their friends are in the medical internship, we have, applications that are coming in a normal year. Right. And I'm glad to hear Instagram, because I do have a 17-year-old, and I guess I could engage and ask him, right? He doesn't always tell me what platforms, he's probably using or on, but I know we're doing all these connections, and I asked him through his school whether or not, he knows about internships. And he's like, well, I don't know. I think there was like something mentioned on the announcements. Okay. So you're right. Just engaging in different ways would be great.
To go off of the social
media. And I like the video idea and showing what's actually going on. Thank you.
Kathy, this is Tracy Monserrati for the record again. I know you could also use Teams now and put information. I know that at McQueen, we have like a general student team that like shoots out announcements. And so you could contact or find out who's running those teams at each school and see if you could get some information on there. And then I think most schools also have Instagram accounts, or their leadership classes do as well. And so, I mean, I don't know if you can, ask them to post something on their sites or their pages, I guess. I don't know what they're called for each school.
Yeah, good idea.
And this is Veronica Franklin. I just want to echo this because my daughter actually did an internship in high school, and before she did it, she was extremely shy and quiet. She ended up bumping into an older student who was doing an internship, and she thought, wow, maybe I can do that. She did it, and the whole capstone piece and the presentation just really taught her a lot, and she gained a lot of confidence. And I think when she told that story to students behind her in school, I think a lot of them got motivated to want to do it as well. And I was just pointing out that she successfully made it through college and just found out today she's going to grad school. She would never have probably done any of that without the internship that she did, even though it was a completely different field than she went into. So I was envisioning something like, listening to what Brooke was saying, you know, I know right now if I were to ask her kind of what young people are watching, I mean, and I appreciate Brooke's feedback. I think Instagram is great, but I was having this vision of like a TikTok video contest among all the students that are doing internships, and put those videos together just to share their stories and say, here's what I've been doing and here's what I'm going to do with that. And here's what I learned. And, you know, just a quick 1 minute, you know, that's what TikTok does. And, yeah, I sound like an old fogey. I'm not exactly sure all the rules, but I think it's a really interesting idea to use social media and really, again, hear from the students' voices about their experiences. And then in terms of recruiting people to do internships, I know one of the things I often hear from businesses is, well, I'm not sure what I have for a student to do. So I don't know if there's other businesses who could say how they looked at the work that they offer, or with the service they provide, the product that they produce, and thought about different ways that safely could involve young people. And I know Renown obviously has found a way to do it, even though it's a fairly, you know, high stress, high intensity environment that's not necessarily appropriate for all young people. And so they have them set up very well to support them through that. So I don't know if there's ways that those businesses that have created internships could also do some videos about how we thought about our work and ways we could engage students and get their voices out to other businesses, so that they can, those that might be thinking, yeah, it would be good to do that, but I'm not even sure where to start. And that might help prompt some thinking and some creativity among other businesses that could provide internships for our students.
Yeah, that's a great idea. The TikTok videos are kind of fun. Yeah. Okay. You've got my mind going as far as my mind can go in that world. I'd have to involve, you know, Brooke. But I think that is good. We connected. Wood Rogers was an engineering firm here in town that we connected with, and we had, you know, when they bring on, sometimes, you know, they want other ideas, and so we did connect them with, you know, Renown, and said this is how they're doing it, and so they took some of their strategies and used that within their business as well. But we haven't done that a whole bunch, so thank you for bringing that up, from, you know, that connection from business to business.
This sounds like a great class project for your new multimedia.
Exactly.
Yeah, now you got the CT coordinator mind going. So, all right. Thank you guys for your feedback. I truly appreciate this. And I will, I know that the internship facilitator, Bet, is just, in fact, she spoke to me right before this committee meeting and was like, okay, you're going to get some input, right? We're going to have some ideas. And so at our work-based learning meeting that we had every Friday, we will be discussing all of this. So thank you guys for your time and your expertise and your love for CT. I appreciate it.
That was a fun discussion. I got my my excitement going with all these ideas. That was great. We're going on to agenda item 2.06 next, but before we move on, Jeanette, do we have any public comment?
None at the moment.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so with that, Josh, we're back to you on workforce development initiatives.
So with that, thank you, everybody. We've had a tremendous amount of discussion tonight. We appreciate it. If anyone can think of any other territory that we can cover in our meetings moving forward, if there's anything that you'd like to discuss or anything you're curious about, please let me or Kathy know. And with that, I would say, it's 7 o'clock. Is it possible to get a motion from somebody to table 2.06 until our next meeting so we can adjourn for the night? I think we've covered as much territory as we can handle today.
This is Veronica Franklin. I move that we table item 2.06 for our next meeting in May.
Does
Jay
anybody
Rathman, I second.
All right, Jay seconds. All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Well, with that, one last opportunity for public comment. Jeanette, do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 17th. We will to be announced for the location, probably a virtual location, but you never know. We'll see what happens. And